And if we want to country, in fact, the 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 Chief Justice Gogoi, Ranjan Gogoi said, India cannot accomplish the $5 trillion goal with the current judiciary. So even among the judiciary also, people have been speaking about it. So we want to, when I brought this up, Bhishma Agnihotriji said, let us brainstorm with these ideas, how we want to do it, what kind of workshops we want to do, what areas in the judiciary specifically we want to do it. And if somebody wants to actively participate, also welcome to. But I didn't want to give this high publicity for this conference, for this call, because this should be a small group among very few individuals who are learned people. So that is where this whole thing came about, to brainstorm ideas. And I request Deshji to give a little background, because he's done very good research and written very good articles on this judiciary thing. Deshji, you want to say a few words?
Sure. Thank you, Satyaji. And namaste to everyone. I think everybody is far more accomplished than I am, like in this area. I'm more learned. So there are a couple of things, that I have found, right? Like in the current, Supreme Court itself, 40% of the judges are either related to another judge, related to another, senior advocates, or to political, leaders. So what is happening is, like, one of the things which really caught my eye was that UK also has moved to something like NJAC, right? So the NJAC was termed as unconstitutional by the Supreme Court bench itself. Like, one of the things that they said was that we do not want the judges to be the mirror images of the existing judiciary. So that was one of the reasons why they actually brought in that something similar to NGAC, which is now the body which appoints the judges in UK. And in, like, US also, there is, like we all know, like they're appointed by the president and then confirmed by the Senate. So there is a feedback loop here. There is no feedback loop in India. So what happens is, the way I look at it is, there is, nepotism, both family nepotism, family-wise, also ideological. So if you believe in my, ideology, only then you will be here. Otherwise, you'll be out. I know that, Justice Muralidhar once actually said in a very recent, speech somewhere, how so many, like judges who were card-carrying members of Communist Party have impacted the constitutional, law within India itself. And that is something that should be scary, because for a long time, like, when the judges, if the judges were anywhere related to anything in RSS or BJP or like Jansangh at that time, they were not even allowed. They were not even allowed to become judges. So many times it has happened. So there is an ideological shift that happened over time. And that ideological shift became permanent when the collegium system actually came about. And like, it is so fiercely guarded now that it's very, very tough to actually take it off. And unless and until it is taken off, we'll have a whole lot of problems, because there is no accountability. And things are going to get worse, because I was actually reading how, Justice Chandrachud is already talking about implied discrimination. For implied discrimination is a concept that has recently come about in the woke judges within the US, which is that you do not have to show that there is evidence of discrimination. If there is an implied discrimination that the judge feels there is, like something like that, that itself is enough for him to go ahead and, like, give the judgment. Now, these are the ideas that are being imported from the West, which do not have any context within India. like if you look at how the judges are interpreting religion, how they are interpreting, like spirituality of India, suppose in the Sabrimala case, how, like in one of the articles that Satyaji referred to, uh, like I was just reading the preamble to the judgment that happened in Sabrimala. How the judge said, well, all the religions are equal. They look at the universal God and all that. Now, we know all that evidence, based on evidence, that is nothing but bullshit. Because, like, what is considered to be God in, say, Christianity is supposed to be, the a pathway to hell in Islam. So, no two religions consider the God to be same or universal in any way. But that is the kind of mentality that they use to actually come to a judgment. So my like argument is that unless and until the judges become accountable to the society in at least some way, we are not going to have a very like useful judiciary going forward. Because like what is happening is, like, I don't think many people realize, and I don't think many people are like worried, but they should be. Like what happened in Diwali, last time, when the Supreme Court and like I think the High Court also, which said that there should be no fireworks or firecrackers and all those things, and they wanted to ban it, and yet everybody revolted. I don't think people realize that it was actually a public revolt against the judiciary itself. The judiciary should have been very, very worried that public has actually rejected judiciary en masse. And this is just, that was just the beginning. It can become far worse. And I don't think people are realizing this like right now, but it can like become even like worse going forward. And I think like we need to kind of press in that like direction. So I think that's all I can say right now. But I'll leave it to other panel members.
Satyaji, if you don't mind, I'm going to intervene at this juncture.
Yeah, please go ahead. That we need the comments from people. Yeah.
Actually, I run a WhatsApp group on judicial reforms in India. So when you say judicial reforms in India, different people have different perspective. When you mention about judicial reforms, the higher judiciary, especially the Supreme Court, will interpret it to say there's a need for police reforms, there's a need for reforms of the investigative process, there's a need for higher budgetary allocation to the judiciary. The executive should grant judicial vista facilities to raise infrastructure for judiciary. In fact, one of the chief justices went on to demand 10% of the federal budget to be given to judiciary, to be administered by judiciary, whichever way it wants. When you talk to a common person, they have a different idea of judicial reform. So you have judicial reform, you have police reforms, you have investigative agency reforms. And lastly, you also have idea of the bar reforms. And they are all, spokes in a wheel. Unfortunately, the Constitution did not give the position judiciary has usurped at this point in time. And it was done through a series of maneuvers when the executive was weak. We need to realize that, after Rajiv Gandhi's government fell, there were series of unstable governments over a period of almost 15 years. And it is during that time that judiciary usurped the power of the executive and took upon itself to appoint judges by themselves. And there's a background to it. There are two cases, landmark cases. One is called Golaknath case, Golaknath versus Punjab government. Second case is Keshavananda Bharati case versus government of Kerala. And in the second case, Keshavananda Bharati case, Supreme Court of India came with an interpretation that there is something called basic structure of the Constitution. Constitution does not mention anywhere that there is a basic structure of Constitution, but Keshavananda Bharati case judgment, which was enunciated in 1973 by a majority of 7-6 by a constitutional bench, opined that there is a basic structure of Constitution which even the Parliament cannot amend. And this led to, some problems with the executive at that point in time. Indira Gandhi was the prime minister. She superseded 3 judges and made A.N. Ray the chief justice. But during the times executive was weak, by a series of 3 cases called first judge case, second judge case, and third judge case, collegium system evolved. And the fig leaf for evolving the collegium system was Constitution said that the Chief Justice and the Justices of Supreme Court are appointed by the President of India with consultation with the Chief Justice. And the word consultation was usurped to say, distorted to say, concurrence of the Chief Justice. And in the third judge case in 1998, the Supreme Court further consolidated the collegium system by saying that consultation or concurrence of Chief Justice as an individual does not mean anything. Judiciary is an institution, so you need actually 5 judges making the decision. So top 5 judges in the Supreme Court and top 5 judges in the high courts decide the collegium. And it is unfortunate that in the entire world, with 194 countries in the Supreme Court, only India is the one where judges appoint themselves. Judges appoint themselves by themselves. And yes, it has been said that there are 100 families that control the judiciary. So how the High Court judges are appointed? There are 2 streams. One stream is the state judicial officers who participate in a state level competitive exam, in which there is MCQ type of questions, essay type of questions, and an interview. And there's a merit list. Every year, the states appoint judicial officers. Now, these judicial officers who start as magistrate, subdivisional magistrate, session judge, additional session judge, district judge, they are eventually, after service of 20-25 years, become eligible to be elevated to the High Court of the state. So that is one stream. Less than 1/3 of High Court judges are employed or elevated through this stream. Second stream comes from lawyers, practicing lawyers. And the only condition is that the lawyer who is elevated to the High Court bench should have practiced law for 10 years, minimum of 10 years. And I think should be in the age range of 45 years to 55 years. Those are the only 2 benchmarks. You can have any Tom, Dick, and Harry practice law for 10 years and be in the age of 45 to 55 range, and they can be appointed by the state collegium to the High Court. And the clear-cut example of usurpation of this process was when Chief Justice of India, Altamas Kabir, appointed his own sister, maneuvered because you control the collegium system, as a High Court judge in Calcutta High Court. And that Chief Justice was in power for 3 months. And he managed to do that. We had another famous example. a Chief Justice of India, K.G. Balakrishnan, he was the one who demanded 10% of the central budget to be given to judiciary for judicial processes. He appointed a High Court, Supreme Court judge. No, it was a High Court judge, Justice Divakaran. And ultimately, this guy created problems and got into conflict with the Madras High Court Chief Justice and ran away, was not attending to the duties and invoked the SC/ST Act. And finally, the Supreme Court had to intervene and he had to be given imprisonment of 6 months. So the process of collegium system is subject to abuse, subject to nepotism. It is a highly opaque system. You do not know who is making what decision. And the concept of consultation has been elevated to concurrence. So when the 99th Amendment to the Constitution came, this was a constitutional amendment bill called National Judicial Appointment Commission Bill. Mind you, in 2015, this was passed by both houses of the parliament. It was given assent by the President of India. And 2/3 of states had to ratify that, and 2/3 of the states ratified this. But this amendment never became operative because our great judiciary, using the power of PIL, invited PILs from concerned lobbies. And this was held in abeyance till the constitutional bench gave the judgment, and it was declared unconstitutional without even being implemented for 1 day. So the situation is grave, Nupur Sharma or no Nupur Sharma or Sabrimala, the entire process of judicial system has been abused, misused, distorted over a period of years, over the years, when executive was weak, judges indulge in power grab. At this point in time, they are not answerable to anyone. And I'll give you an example, simple example of corruption. When India Against Corruption issued that agitation, which was, by the way, initially spearheaded by Baba Ramdev, was there. Delhi High Court gave a judgment that judges should not be using the Lal Batti. And in fact, they gave away the power except for the Chief Justice of India. And after several years, the judges realized that no, it is too difficult for them to give Lal Batti and the privileges with that, the red beacon. Madras High Court, single judge, gave a judgment which became operative all over India, that all the judges have to have these red beacons and the administrations at any level have to honor that. So we are having a special class which is abetting its own powers, indulging in nepotism, cronyism, what is in Hindi called bhai bhatijawad. They are not accountable to anyone. They are not accountable to the electorate. And they are left, right, and center overruling the executive, which is elected to enact the laws. The laws should not be framed by the judiciary. And there's a clear-cut parallel in United States when they talk about originalist doctrine. Just like, some motivated judges in US are talking about the originalist doctrine. In India, they are talking about basic structure of constitution and usurping the power of the electorate, the power of the legislative branch of the government, and power of the executive. To the extent that a small high court, Tripura High Court, gives directives to the union government to do certain things. So we are having a state of impasse at this point in time. And yes, there is need for reforming the judicial system. but it also includes scrapping the collegium system, which is highly corrupt. And the only way it can be done is when Parliament enacts another constitutional amendment, which may be an improvement on the 99th Amendment, so that the objections that were raised by the judiciary at that point in time are exposed. So the legislative branch has to bring these amendments to the Constitution again, just to demonstrate how biased the judiciary is. Otherwise, judiciary will keep on confronting the executive. Right now, judiciary is making all the decisions. Executive cannot make any decision because every decision, somebody files a PIL in court of a judge. The benches are predetermined. You know that in Tista Setalward's case, all her PILs were filed by manipulating the roster in one single judge's bench in the Supreme Court, till Gujarat High Court Chief Judge exposed this. So judiciary is not clean at this point in time. They misuse their power, and they misuse the doctrine of contempt of court. If anyone criticizes the judiciary, you can criticize the Prime Minister, there are not going to be any consequences. You can criticize the MPs, the Parliament, the Speaker of the House, there are no consequences. The moment you criticize the judiciary, you can be hauled for contempt of court, even if you are speaking the truth. Because Indian judiciary does not consider truth as defense in contempt of court cases. You may be Satyavadi Harishchandra, and you may say anything or everything, 100% truth, nothing but the truth. But if it quote unquote scandalizes the judiciary, if there is a judge who is corrupt and you talk about that, and you have solid evidence that this judge took corrupt bribes and all, you can still be hauled to court because you indulge in contempt of the court. The Republic cannot move on with this situation. And it's high time that the legislative branch of the government enacts suitable constitutional amendment so that this runaway judiciary is brought back to its place. Constitution envisages three branches of government: legislative, executive, and judiciary. Yes, they have to be independent, but one branch cannot be allowed to dominate all the branches of government. And that is the basic problem at this point in time.
Whoa, this is a wonderful beginning. I'm very glad that we had this discussion, Adityanji. I mean, you are so well informed about this. Somebody raising the hand. Adityanji, you raised your hand.
That was me. I'm going to lower my hand now.
Oh, okay. So this is the thing. I mean, many of us feel that there is a serious problem, but we don't know all the details. The level you have analyzed it and you are explaining it. It is of a deep concern to the country. We cannot have a nation where a bunch of people think that they can run a parallel government. In fact, that's what they've been doing.
This is what it is. It's de facto governance by the judiciary.
Governance by the judiciary. Not just judiciary, military, it seems. Somebody, Bhaishmaji told me, or somebody told me, that they want to run how the military is conducting in Kashmir, and the military told, please go ahead. Yeah.
In fact, they have fingers in every pie. And unfortunately, the system of PILs that has been legitimized, the judiciary would not talk about pendency of cases. They would not talk about the number of days they take for vacation. The Supreme Court judges on average, they work for 183 days. There's a 3-month-long summer vacation. There are almost 3 weeks of Christmas vacation. There's Dasara vacation, there's Diwali vacation. They are always on vacation. Prime Minister works 24/7. All the cabinet ministers work 24/7. Judiciary does not want to notify the government of India when they are traveling abroad. Why not? When all government officials, whether it is bureaucrats, whether it is ministers, have to notify the government of India that they are traveling abroad. Why should the judges be an exception? For all you know, a sitting judge is hobnobbing with foreign powers. Why are they traveling abroad? Why do they need to attend international conferences when there are 5 crore cases pending? Why can't you do overtime? Why can't you work 6 days a week? Why can't you stop indiscriminate and indefinite adjournment after adjournment? Because of collusion between the judges and the bar, which is corrupt. When you have a cabal of lawyers running the Supreme Court and threatening some of the judges that, things will not be good, basically dictating, people like Abhishek Manu Singhvi and Kapil Sibal and, Dushyant Dave, there's a problem. And everybody sees this problem, but you need what is euphemistically called anatomical fortitude to deal with the judicial.
Adinyaji, I think you have done a fantastic job. I was not fully aware of what you have been saying this, but it would be a good idea if you were to put up a small note on this. I'm not accusing them, but at least a basic idea of how the whole constitution has been corrupted by these people. At least an average person doesn't know much about it. And they believe that this is a part of the constitution and the constitution cannot be changed unless the ruling party has a 2/3 majority in the Lok Sabha as well as a 2/3 majority in Rajya Sabha. So this is where most of the people think about it. So I would suggest, that's my request to you, that at least for some of us, if we have some kind of a note on this, then the next step, in my opinion, is by talking is nothing going to happen. We got to take it to the people. And the people movement has to come. We need to employ all the type of organizations that are involved in this and create, and also include this all gurus, babas and devas, that you should join this group and create a campaign against this judicial system. That's the only way I think you will be able to fight back.
I think one way, which is a very simple way, is to involve an MP who is willing to table a private member's bill, a constitutional amendment bill, to reintroduce the concept of NJAC. You don't need government to move the bills. A private member's bill, a single MP can submit and let the House debate, let the Lok Sabha debate, let the Rajya Sabha debate, because it's going to force the issue. When the people power comes, just like what happened on Diwali, you can demonstrate to judiciary to heck with you, we'll do what we want. Are you going to lock up 130 crore people? That's one way of protest, but a much more procedural way of bringing it to fore is, this Lok Sabha is going to be till 2024. We have 2 years. Bring a constitutional amendment bill as a private member's bill, reintroducing National Judicial Appointment Commission with several modifications, so judiciary cannot use the same grounds to invoke that it is affecting the basic.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. could you please comment on the judiciary reform in US and how does it compare with the judiciary in India? Any brief comments if you have?
I'll make some comments, but let's say India is India, US is US, the twain shall never meet. The problem in India's judiciary started, and I can tell you at what time. There was a Congress leader by name Siddharth Shankar Ray. Siddharth Shankar Ray was a lawyer, a barrister trained in UK, and he was the one who wrote the emergency proposal for Indira Gandhi. During Narasimha Rao's prime ministership, he was appointed from 1992 to 1996 India's ambassador to United States. And because he was the ambassador, in order to bring US and India, closer, he arranged a visit by then Chief Justice of India to US Supreme Court. And since then, Indian judiciary has been out of control. Aping United States is not going to help India. Let me be very frank. The systems are entirely different. And we see, what is happening here in judicial system. So India had a good system, judicial system, till collegium system was invoked. So, our governance models are totally different. India, there is one person, one vote. Here, the power is decided by smoke-filled rooms in the electoral college. One person, one vote does not hold true in United States. So I think it will be very, very fallacious to compare the justice system in India and justice system in United States. But needless to say, India is the only country where judges are appointing themselves. And that's shame. That's shameful.
I think your points are very well expressed and a lot of context to it. So thank you for clarifying. But do you, since we are here, I just wanted to know how you view the judiciary in this country.
Look, again, we are living here. We know what goes on. It has no bearing on what is going on in India. So we are tracking from the issue. It's a very, timely, very appropriate issue to talk about judiciary in India, judicial reforms in India. We will be actually diluting our point of view. We start discussing United States judiciary.
Okay, maybe for another time. That's fine.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But anybody else want to give any comments? Yeah, please go ahead.
I think, if I'm not wrong, 2014 or 2015, Narendra Modi ji had tried to change this setup of selecting the judges. And it was recommended that there should be 2 people from the government, 2 people or 3 people, judges from the judicial side, and then 2 people, prominent people from the community side. But
well, that was the National Judicial Appointment Commission bill.
Yeah.
That was a constitutional amendment which was ratified by both houses of parliament, given assent by the president, ratified by at least 2/3 of the states, and judiciary never allowed it to be implemented even for one day.
Why not? Why can't the government executive committee fight back?
Well, it depends upon the spine. If you have the spine, you fight back.
Now, Adityanji, one place coming to this fighting back, one comes to my mind is when Supreme Court passed something against Uddhav Thackeray's government in Maharashtra, and to give, and what they did is they passed a resolution in the state assembly. They are not going to comply with it and openly violated it. I mean, I think Supreme Court could not do anything about it. Have you heard about that? Anybody heard about that? I remember.
That situation is gone now because the government has changed. So, Supreme Court's directives are sometimes not implemented for various reasons, because Supreme Court works in isolation and tries to dictate in terms, in spheres, in areas where it has no expertise at all. Supreme Court made a mockery of the Italian killers of two fishermen in Kerala by taking over the case and releasing them back to Italy. Supreme Court took over the case of Bhopal gas Kand. And you know what happened? The settlement that was derived at, the Chief Justice Ahmadi at that time became the chairperson of the trust and administered that money for relief. So Supreme Court is very adept as usurping everything. They have created so many commissions, giving post-retirement employment to Supreme Court judges. I run a human rights organization, International Commission for Human Rights. I'm not a lawyer. Why should the National Human Rights Commission chairperson in India must be a retired Supreme Court judge? Why? So they are creating pelf and perks for themselves in perpetuity. I'll give you another example. There was a commission appointed in, to investigate the Babri Masjid or that structure demolition. And it was headed by a retired Supreme Court judge, Manmohan Singh Liverhans. You know how many years that single judge commission sat? Almost for 20 years. Why? Because when you are heading a commission, you get a house, a bungalow in New Delhi, you get an office, you get an official car, you get various allowances, various perks. So they keep on creating number of commissions, whether it's Human Rights Commission or some arbitration panel. In everything, they are creating post-retirement positions of profit for the judiciary.
In fact, there is a circulated in the social media, Jaitley speaking about this in the parliament. I don't know if you've seen it.
I know, I've seen that. Jaitley was very humorous actually when he made those comments. And those were not actually when Jaitley was in power.
Yes, he was in opposition.
That was during actually UPA time.
Yes.
The bottom line is that there are so many problems with judiciary in India. And as they say, when water is up to the neck, you have to do something. Even this group I'm running, I've been threatened that, if I go to India, I can be arrested for being somewhat explicit about what these problems are. Because judiciary has this quote unquote contempt of court power. So the moment you write about the judiciary or say something about the judiciary, you are subject to that treatment. In fact, they actually passed warrants of arrest against an NRI from Andhra to be arrested for criticizing judiciary.
Oh my God! I wrote an article on Chief Justice. It went viral. I hope they won't. Will I know if they try to go to arrest me? Will I get a notice, or will I know it only after I enter India?
Well, you might know when you enter India, and if there's a warrant for arrest or something like that. So it is a sensitive subject, but
I had the same experience, right? When I wrote about Justice Molidhar and Gautam Navlakha, I had the same experience because one of his flunky actually filed a case against me at that time also, Vivek Agnihotri and Guru Murthy, the folks who had, tweeted my article. And ultimately, you had to bring it down because Like if I have to ever go to India, because I'm in IT, I'll have a whole lot of issues. But those guys are just, a hitman group that is out there. Like even though what I said was absolutely, like you have been saying, whatever I said was absolutely all facts. Nothing wrong. But still, they Justice Muralidhar just could not handle that.
They filed a case against Deshji.
Yeah, they filed a case against me, Vivek ji, Vivek Agnihotri ji, and Guru Murthy ji. So the case actually was that Gautam Navlakha, who was arrested, right? He was one of the 5 urban Naxals, as Vivek ji calls them, was involved in the Bhima Koregaon case. And Justice Muralidhar was about to let him go when Supreme Court said, well, they have to be in house arrest. And the reason why he was letting him go was because the remand notice that the Maharashtra police actually brought was actually in Marathi. And he wanted them to translate that, and they could not do it. So he was about to let them go. And then he, after a few weeks, he again held a hearing at 6 a.m. in the morning. And then, he was let go. And so my question was that Gautam Navlakha was a very good friend of Justice Muralidhar's wife. Both Justice's wife and Gautam Navlakha, both were doing anti-Modi agitations all the time. So he was actually a family friend of Justice Muralidhar. And he should have recused himself. But more importantly, the Bhima Koregaon case was actually involved assassination plot of a sitting prime minister. It also involved the assassination plot of Modi ji. So what was it that he was what did he know that other people didn't know, that he was about to let him go? And what was the reason? So those are the only questions I asked. And that was enough for him to get all riled up and have a flunky file a case against all 3 of us. So
I believe Guru Murthy ji apologized in that case.
Yeah, he did. He actually put his apology subject to my apology. So what he said, if Desh Kapoor apologizes, then it will be termed as my apology also. So that's what he did. My issue was that I work in IT area, and because I'm in IT, I'll have to go to India at some point in time through my work. So that would be a big issue, like if I have to, because being a US citizen, I do get the Second Amendment right? The First Amendment right of right to expression. But that would not count there, because they can ape US the way they want, but they'll never give you the First Amendment rights that we have here. So that they will not let happen. So so there is a big issue. But what that case did after that was that the Justice Muralidhar was actually was going to become the Supreme Court judge. He never became that. He was sent to Odisha. There he became a Chief Justice, but he was sent to Odisha. After that, 5 judges, including Ranjan Gogoi, recused themselves in the Gautam Navlakha case. So it did impact them. That one article that did impact them. All these people, but what we need is something far bigger than that. What we need is a movement, like you are saying, and all that you said is absolutely on the dot. In all my articles that I've written until now, all my research that I've done, that's exactly what I've come to the same conclusion. Because it's a very, very deep conspiracy that is going on, and we are not going to go in the right direction at all. Because the wokeism that is out there is very, very, very deep.
I think the only recourse is legislative at this point in time, because an individual writing an article, trying to make
that won't do much. That
won't do much.
Yeah, yeah.
So the way
that is
to
exactly what
bend
I'm
the
saying.
cat is to bring private members' bills in the Lok Sabha.
Yeah. So that's the see, that is Adityanji, I totally agree with you in terms of the formal action. That is the right thing to do, and that is what should be done. My worry is just like NGAC was beaten back, that will also be beaten back. What is required?
The issue is that if you bring 10 times, every time,
but that nobody will do. Yeah, but that nobody will do. And like even now, like nobody is willing to do that, even though they are in power. Like I think unless and until one of the things that I've realized about Modi ji is that I think somewhere he needs the backing of the public also. We keep talking about how like Modi ji should help us. I think what we do not realize is,
again, let's get on to the facts. There are three branches: judiciary, legislative, and executive. Modi ji is executive. I'm saying a private member's bill. It need not be government supported. It need not be a BJP member's bill. It can be an independent MP's bill.
I know, I totally agree. But what I'm saying is that person will be a target after that. So just like, so it takes a lot of
you
courage
have
to actually
immunity for whatever you do in the parliament.
Yeah,
you have immunity for, your speech in parliament is absolutely protected.
So it won't be direct; it will be indirect, but there would be consequences going forward because
I think that's
like,
a
that is why
better way
nobody
than you and I, writing an article and subjecting ourselves to arrest in India.
No.
Now-
So what I'm saying is that has to be a public movement, just like the India Against Corruption was, like Satyaji was saying.
And
It has to come to a point where it is a boil.
Look, you know what happened to India Against Corruption.
I know, like what I'm saying is
Kejriwal.
that, yeah,
so,
I know.
How public movements are, instead of thinking big, think of small steps that can have incremental change, exposing the judiciary.
But IAC brought Kejriwal, but more importantly, it also obliterated Congress and it brought BJP. That would not have happened if that India Against Corruption movement had not happened. What I'm saying is that unless and until there is a big public movement, these guys will never back down. They'll only back down when there is something like a French revolution happening. Otherwise, they'll keep on doing the same thing.
The Aam Janata does not know the intricacies of these issues. They are happy.
वहीं तो हम आते हैं because corruption का भी यही चीज थी. Corruption का भी यही problem था.
Well, they are happy because the Aam Janata is also corrupt. You give a bottle of whiskey and 500 rupee note and your vote is for sale. Right. So level of honesty in Aam Janata in India is not all that great. And to think of, starting a public movement to reform the judiciary to support the leader, I think that is a wrong strategy. Use the legislative conduit to bring judiciary accountable. And it may not be just the NGAC, it may be other things. Why cannot, the pendency of cases be dealt with by putting benchmarks on the performance? And again, you need legislation for that. Why can't you create 6 day, 8 hours shift for the judges? They come at 10:30 and by 3 o'clock they are gone.
Yeah, I've dealt with them.
That can be done by regulating them.
My only worry is that, there is like nobody out there who can bell the cat. And like they have to be a very powerful set of MPs who come together in a certain way with certain powers who will actually take this on. Otherwise, nobody takes this on unless and until there is such a big movement behind them that like they feel secure, like at least of their own. Because like whether we realize or we don't realize, there are number of forces which are backing all these things up. Whether it is Soros, whether it is like all the NGOs, we know all the NGOs are backed by someone or the other, right? So the backing of all these, like it may not be direct. There was a very interesting thing about Jeff Bezos, right? When he had come and, in India, and like Modi ji never met him. And the reason, many people said was because Washington Post has been, writing such articles. And Washington Post said, well, like Bezos doesn't tell us like what to write. But the thing was that, the same thing happened with Bernie Sanders also. And Bernie Sanders said, yes, it is true that, Jeff Bezos doesn't tell Washington Post, but there's a framework. That framework makes these people do that. That framework is also responsible for what happens in India because of all these forces which will target that person in some way or the other.
Point is that we can discuss all the conspiracy theories, and that's not going to affect the situation on the ground. So you have to take concrete steps. And the only way you can take a concrete step is by legislative action, because that is an independent branch of the state.
I'm not disagreeing. All I'm saying is that is just one of the steps that we can take. There are many others that we also need to take. So I totally agree with you.
I think we have to start from somewhere to hope that a mass movement will be started against judiciary. I think that's not going to happen.
No, Adityanji, I think Deshji is saying, he's not saying they are independent actions. They can also, having a public movement along with the legislative actions, will
Look, you start with legislative action. If judiciary takes a negative view, if you have 10 instances, don't go by judgments, just pure simple legislative action, bring a private member's bill, constitutional amendment, using this power, that power. That's how you change. Now, if you suddenly come to street, the judiciary will use the police power.
I agree. Yeah.
No, but they cannot. That's exactly what I'm saying. What happened in Diwali was just a public movement. That was the only time that I know of when judiciary was like made a complete mockery, and nobody, not one judge, could do anything after that. That is the only way that the legislators can actually be empowered. Otherwise, no legislator will ever take this step because they haven't.
That did not require legislative action. That was citizens' action, and there was no way police could arrest all the.
That's exactly what I'm saying. That if it is a public movement, then no judge can do anything.
Those kind of things are very unique. You have left, right, and center judiciary determining everything. So you bring, let's say, you bring a demonstration at Jantar Mantar or Boat Club. What will happen? They will direct the police commissioner of Delhi to arrest these people. And police commissioner will be obligated to do that because it is a finite number of people. You write an article, there'll be, even it is a multi-authored paper, still a finite number of people. So,
no, but what I'm saying is it should not be a finite number of people. That's what happened with Diwali. It was a much wider, like if there are enough people who are like bringing up all these folks together, and like maybe it is like one day or 2 days which are earmarked, that like will like make this a mass movement. That can change a whole lot of things because it won't happen by any. Agar hona hota, ab tak to ho gaya hota. Legislators are just meek cowards who can never do anything on their own unless and until they know that there is a far superior power of people behind them.
Personally don't think that there will be a mass movement against judiciary.
But hua na, Diwali mein hua na. Diwali
that is a very, very specific thing which affects the common person. The issues we are talking about, mass movements are not going to be created for that.
Now, if I may, Adityanji and Deshji, if I may add, recently, CGI Ramana said he was rattled by in the social media talking against judiciary.
Yes.
So it doesn't have to be the mass movement. Even 1% or 0.5% of the population, even 0.025%, it can rattle them because they're in an insecure position.
They're very insecure. They're very, very worried about it.
you can continue to rattle them, but they still have a line of succession decided till 2027.
Right.
You know, the line of the succession remains. It does not change a whole lot. So again, you have to take the bull by its horn.
Yes.
You have to take bull by its horn, and the legislative way is the only sober way of dealing with. We cannot avoid doing that. So we need to, if we are doing, let's say, a workshop, we need to have select number of MPs from both houses of parliament. Don't make it a Modi ji's issue or BJP's issue, because NJAC was supported by all the parties. Okay. So whoever is in the government faces the same situation. You may have some members of parliament who may be willing to, table a bill. You have eminent lawyers of Supreme Court who would be willing to write the bill. It's a question of analyzing the energy in a positive manner.
Why would Goga himself? Goga himself is a Rajya Sabha MP.
He's a nominated member of Rajya Sabha, and because of the accusations against him about sexual harassment and having a quid pro quo with the government, he is not going to do himself. What he has done, that he has donated his Rajya Sabha member's salary to start some fellowships for judicial students, so that young lawyers come, But Gogoi himself probably will not put his neck, because he's a nominated member of the parliament. He has no, he's just biding his time at this point in time in an honorable way, because they all, got against him for the Ram Janam Bhoomi judgment. So it has to be maybe a member of the Rajya Sabha, a member of the Lok Sabha, with some, most of the politicians in India have LLB, so maybe even an independent MP. So the government gets
because see, I'll tell you another thing, that like what I've seen, and this is a reality, right? If it crosses the parties, it doesn't matter whether that party has backed that bill, backed that issue or not. They will go against Modi. That is a mandate that is out there. The same thing happened with CA, the same thing happened with NRC, the same thing happened with the Farmers' Bill. When it crosses the parties, no two parties will come together. They will just not happen.
It's not a good idea to confuse the issue of judicial reform in India with anti-Modi thing.
No, I'm telling you that is how it will happen. That is the reality.
That's the worst thing you can do.
It's not about मैं क्या चाहता हूँ. मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि reality of the situation क्या है. Reality of situation ये है कि कोई भी आने को तैयार नहीं है सामने. वो सब एक दूसरे के साथ, वो कोई एक दूसरे के साथ बैठेगा नहीं वहां पर. वो वैसे बैठ जाएंगे, बाहर निकलते कुछ और बात करेंगे.
Modi ji wanted, he would have brought the bill himself. If he wanted,
वो नहीं कर सकते ना, वो नहीं कर सकते, because there is far more at like on the this thing हम realize नहीं करते होंगे शायद, but there is far more forces that which are out there. They are right now trying to back Kejriwal to become the next prime minister. Soros कर रहा है, Soros करता रहा है हर जगह पे. और ये वो नहीं है. This is not a conspiracy theory. Ukraine में the entire Orange Revolution, there are papers, there are evidence that it was financed by Soros and USAID.
India is very complex. Modi versus Kejriwal. There is Mamata Banerjee. There is KCR. There is Sharad Pawar. There are Nitish Kumar. There are prime ministers in waiting in every party. Everyone has their ambition. Again, to bring it is all conspiracy against Modi. I think that's not the right approach. You have to take an academic, objective approach if you have to be successful. Otherwise, things will fizzle out.
I think we are not, though we are saying that we have different emphasis, there is nothing stopping. There is nothing, if the public movement want to do it, or even small percent rattle them.
Right.
At the same time,
both should happen.
legislation do it. But let us move further from this discussion because we are stuck at this. Do we have an idea? I mean, what about this conference of sparking that? Do we think there is a value in that?
So where will you do the conference? You will do conference in India.
In Delhi, Vivekananda Center, Gurumurthy ji seems to be sympathetic. He told me to give the agenda and he said he will discuss it and let me know.
Gurumurthy ji has already apologized for contempt of court.
Right.
What is the credibility that he will not apologize again?
No. We don't under his name. He says he's no more on heading that, but his word has influence in. We just need a venue for it. That's all. It's a nice venue. We had it done before. If not that, we'll go do it in some other place. It doesn't have to be Vivekananda.
I think there should be three-pronged approach. One is to align with the major influencers across the social media. That has to be something that creates a public movement. Then there have to be these type of conferences like you are saying, Satyaji, and also the legislative action like Adityanji is saying. Like what I mean is that each one backs each other up. Otherwise, one leg will not make anything happen because that is how it works.
If you follow social media, there are a lot of people who are talking about judiciary on the social media.
But it's not a movement. It
is a movement. If you see Dr. Anand Ranganathan, he is, biting them, the scathing sarcasm of judiciary. If you look at Ashwini Upadhyay, his tweets, every day there are 5 or 10 tweets from Ashwini Upadhyay asking for reform, asking for uniform.
No, not like that. Create a day called Judiciary Independence Day.
Yeah,
and make that happen. And the day that judiciary became independent or answerable, Judiciary Democracy Day or something like that. What I'm saying is,
Accountability Day.
Yeah, whatever. It could. I'm just saying. You're right, and that is what needs to happen, so that it becomes something actually converges on one thing, one idea that becomes so powerful that nobody can move away. It's not about one influencer saying one thing and the other one saying. Vivek Agnihotri ji also says a whole lot of things, and he's very powerful. But the point is that unless it converges on one idea, one day, one action item,
that's a very good
then
idea.
It won't happen.
I will actually agree to this, that you can have convergence of action on social media if there is some activism that is already happening on the social media, but don't think that is going to be
not only so that alone cannot do anything. That alone will not do anything, but that will bring the whole nation to a boil in a way that the legislative action after that will be so powerful that nobody can actually move away from it. Because it won't be brought down. After that, if the NGAC is brought again, then it will have a whole different, future. Before that, the point was they brought NJAC, but it had nobody knew what happened. Nobody even knows what NJAC is.
Yes.
Nobody knows why it was important.
So public.
कोई बोला ही नहीं. अब अगर बोलो, अगर एक accountability, और ऐसा नहीं है कि लोगों को समझ में नहीं आता, लोगों को समझ में आता है. If it is conveyed properly, the whole Bollywood thing that is happening right now is a testimony to that. As something which is as complex as that has been conveyed, and people, despite the fact that they have that aspiration and entertainment they are still not going.
Yes.
I'm saying there's a lot of power in that.
Aditya, I want to give a personal example. In West Bengal, one girl, Tuktiki, young girl, minor girl, was love jihad. And her father is a rickshaw puller or something, a small, very poor person. And he was desperately going from one place to another place in West Bengal, trying to recover his daughter. So we started a campaign in Twitter. This was 5, 6, 7 years ago. And it was #1 trend. So much it trended. I mean, this is initially started by me. I've been sending thousands and thousands and thousands of emails. it became #1 trending in Twitter, that NDTV and all the media channels started covering it, to the point that the state government had to take action. The magistrate had to take action. They brought the girl to the thing, asked her to tell whether she was coerced. The whole thing came about just from one thing.
So, even in Nupur Sharma case, there was a lot of critique of judiciary on the social media. These guys reversed their decision, but without apologizing, without taking back the oral observations. So they were forced in a way, same bench of judges,
yes,
entirely opposite to what they did. But their egos are so high that A, they will not apologize. B, they will not withdraw the oral comments they had made. So what I'm trying to say that yes, social media is able to do at this point in time, but you need to move beyond that. And that is where the, 2015, the 99th Amendment to the Constitution was passed. And 2015 itself, the judiciary declared it, unconstitutional. 7 years have passed by. What has the executive done? What has the legislative branch done? It depends upon the spine. Both the executive branch and the legislative branch are affected by that, but they haven't done anything.
Why do you think
it's?
Why do you think, Adityanji? Why do you think they're afraid of them?
I think we just look at one person saying that he will save us.
Mm-hmm.
And that complex is wrong complex. One person cannot save the country. It has to be a collective effort, and everything has not to be tied to the fate of that person.
Yes.
The moment you do that, you are losing objectivity. India has been there for thousands of years. One person does not define India. One person's career does not define India. Come what may.
I agree with that. I feel the same way too.
Anyway, we have gone beyond the time, but I think we need to, I'm not against the conference or a workshop. All I'm saying is you need to supplement it with real legislative action, which is going to affect the judiciary much more.
Well, this is wonderful discussion, but let us have one more call on specific concrete actions. I mean, I can tell you, Adityanji and Deshji, today 1 billion people vote with a paper trail in elections, EVM machines.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say that I played an instrument role.
We know that 2009 election and all that happened afterwards. So we understand that.
No. The way we did at the time was group of NGOs. They were suffocated by the Congress government. So what I did is I reached out to the top international experts who banned EVM machines in their country, in Germany, Netherlands, and also in America. The 3 guys experts. We took them and we worked with the NGOs and exposed it, and they arrested that guy. They dragged him from Hyderabad to Mumbai, and it became a bigger publicity. So I'm thinking, if I have to stick my neck out and publish articles in my name, I don't care. I will be doing it. I can do it. If they won't allow me to come to the country, that is fine. But we can do it. But we have to look at, there must be something that can break the mold to make things happen. We know what it is. That foreign expert coming made
let's refer it to another call with a concrete agenda rather than discussing the problems ad nauseam. Let's focus on concrete action. And it does not have to be unimodal action, it has to be multimodal action.
No, I think we all agree with that.
Okay. All right.
Do we want to have a private separate call, or do we want to have another FISI arranged call?
We can do like 3 or 5 persons core group, because ultimately when you have a harmonious working group with small number of people working on the problem, the voice, things become sort of discordant. So I would suggest Deshji, yourself, myself, Bhishmji, and maybe one more person with some legal background make a 5-member core group and come to a number of actionable items, and nothing is off the table in that. And, these should not be in a hierarchical situation that you have to do this before going on to that. You have to have parallel actions, not sequential.
Yes,
Totally agree with you.
totally agree there.
Okay.
Now,
Totally, yeah.
Shwaranji is from VHP Joint Secretary. He's the one who brought the judges that letter wrote by the army personnel and judges. That letter that had influenced the Supreme Court judges on Nupur Sharma case. I can invite him, or I can ask him if he has a recommendation of somebody from he knows.
That's fine. If he has been involved, he has been through thick and thin, it'll be a good addition, but let's create a 5-member core committee.
Okay, Deshji, you're willing to join?
Yeah, I'll be okay.
No, I think
I'll be honored.
Deshji has to join.
Yeah. So myself and let me get I also actually few days ago we actually got in touch with an entrepreneur in Delhi who said he will get some people involved. I can also ask him, but Venkateshwaranji can definitely point me to the right person who will be deeply involved, somebody who coordinated that letter. Let us have, when do we want to have the next call? Same time next week?
Next Monday, 29th.
Or maybe do we want to wait until that time? I don't know about the schedule of the people.
Yeah, you can check and then you can, I'm open at this time.
I am open next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Daytime.
Okay.
By that time, all the work is finished and all that sort of thing. So I am open.
Okay. Let us schedule it Monday 8 p.m. and I will bring in 1 or 2 other people who are really closely involved, and then we will form a committee and see if we can make a further progress.
I would also suggest that prepare a list of agenda items, to-do list, and we'll collate that into a bigger list.
Yeah, I can send a meeting notes actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Notes. Okay. So then we can go from there. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you next Monday.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.